So hello, as he said, I'm Rosie and I'm a scientist at Paragraf, where we specialize in graphene-based electronic devices. So we kind of go from making the graphene itself through to turning that into high-performance devices. So it's good to be able to share some of the data from our devices and talk about commercially viable graphene Hall effect sensors for automotive applications. So a brief bit of background to Paragraf. So the idea actually began at the University of Cambridge with some researchers there who found this kind of method for producing graphene that's high quality and large area, and kind of worked that into a commercial production process. The company span out of the university in 2017. We're now based north of Cambridge, and I actually joined soon after in 2018, and since then we've had a lot of exciting developments, including the commercialization of our graphene-based Hall sensor, which is our first product. So today we're growing globally. We have a facility, as I said, north of Cambridge with many different capabilities, so various different labs and a growing body of staff with expertise in various different fields. So it's a very exciting team to be a part of. And the basis for the devices that we make is our graphene. And this process is unique to us, and it enables us to give direct-to-substrate graphene. So there's no need for a transfer process. It's contamination-free, and it gives us a lot of flexibility to be able to produce devices on the wafer scale. So this means that everything is kind of able to plug into conventional semiconductor processing techniques, and we can go through to our own final packaged devices. So one of those devices which I'm going to focus on today is our Hall effect sensor. However, we do have other R&D streams going on as well, so things from biosensing to other solid-state devices. We have a wide map of different technologies and different experts. So some really exciting things, but for now I'll focus on the Hall effect sensor. So if you're not familiar with the Hall effect, it basically operates with a piece of material which is represented by that cross there. So for us, that would be a piece of graphene. So that's the active material. And a current flows across the material in one direction, and then when that's in proximity to a magnetic field, there's a deflection to the side of the current. And that means that we can measure the potential across the material, and that voltage is called the Hall voltage, and the magnitude of that voltage tells us the strength of the magnetic field. So this is quite a simple technique, and it's got a wide range of applications in various different fields. So from medical to high-level research, particle accelerators, and of course, very, very widely used in the automotive industry in various different ways. So why graphene for a Hall effect sensor? It's well known that graphene's electronic properties are very promising, and these make it a really good prospect for the devices. But it's things like the ease of use and the linearity with different fields and temperatures that give it key advantages over other materials that might be used for the sensors. So it's very simple, it's compact. This is something that we're working towards, always getting the kind of end product smaller and smaller, with very simple supporting electronics. And it also operates orders of magnitude lower power than conventional devices. So this is something that's very attractive in many different applications. And with it being used so widely in the automotive industry, as we can see here, and we've heard earlier on as well, sensors are all over cars and increasingly so, especially with EV technology as well. And this falls into various categories, so different types of positional sensing, rotational, speed, and current sensing. And current sensing is something that I'll talk about in a bit more depth. It's particularly relevant for the battery management and for electric vehicles. So I'll go into that in a bit more detail. So having a sensor that can tell you about the current in a battery is very important at various points of a battery's life. So So starting at the R&D stage, if you're looking to design and optimize batteries, different kind of layouts, different form factors, and you're looking at the efficiency, active and inactive areas, it's useful to be able to understand that. And then in the service, in the kind of active life of the battery, having an in situ monitoring is really useful. You can look at things like cycling, degradation, look at efficiency, also safety, and looking at within a kind of pack, how is each individual cell playing its part. And then moving on to the end of a battery's life, you can also use current sensing to check for defects and to kind of screen batteries for recycling or reuse. So widespread applications during the whole life of a battery. And this can help us to answer key questions about the battery. So are we charging? Are we discharging? And when we're doing that for lots of cycles over time, is it degrading? Is it the same performance? Has it become damaged? And if so, whereabouts is it damaged? Which part is causing problems within the device? So using the graphene Hall effect sensor, we can just place it on a battery, and the Hall effect sensor is effectively used to measure the magnetic field that's generated by the current. So it's a non-contact method. As I say, it's just placed on the battery, so it doesn't interrupt the normal operation of the battery, which means it can be used in situ. It can be taken out if it's broken. You don't have to take everything apart. And it gives you a true snapshot of what is actually happening right now in the battery. And this can be on any current-carrying part of the battery, so it can be placed on the bus bars. It can be placed all over a pouch cell. And you can do this as close together as you like and as possible, because there's no crosstalk between the sensors. So especially with something we're working towards, which is decreasing the size of the sensors, being able to get lots of sensors close together can give a really high resolution spatial map of the current that's going on. So this is something that we've put to the test, and this is some data that we've gathered in collaboration with Danica, who are specialist battery engineers. And we can see here that using the Hall sensor to measure the current in the battery, we can see a series of discharge pulses here at different currents, and we can see the response is quite clear between the different currents. When the discharge is started, we've got quite a quick response, and then we see these flat sections here where we're discharging at constant current, and then when that's stopped, again, we see a clear drop in the signal, and we can see the difference with the different currents used. So this is quite a promising initial result, and it tells us that we're kind of gaining from the benefits of the graphene. And going back to some of those benefits, graphene has a very wide operating range, so we can look at things from milliamp to tens of kiloamps potentially. And the fact that you can do that and you can't overexpose or saturate the sensor means that it's got a huge range and that you can not have to switch out between different sensors for different parts of the range. So it's one sensor to take care of everything. And you can also capture fast spikes. Yeah. Is it really fast? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so I'll show some more kind of data with the speeds and stuff, but basically that's what you can see from these pulses. It's more or less instantaneous. And the graphene is not kind of limited in that way with the material itself. So effectively, if you have a large, rapid spike in the current, you can capture that and you can see it. If you've got it kind of configured properly, you can see all of that spike, so you can quickly see what's going on and detect any problems. So again, hopefully this kind of shows the speed of operation as well. This is some more data that we've actually done with WMG and Warwick. And the nice thing about this one is that we have both discharge and charge of the battery here. So you can actually see the different directions, and you can see that the signal here is reversed for charging and discharging. So we're actually using the graphene to see what direction the current is flowing in. So you can differentiate between the battery charging and discharging. And again, we can differentiate between these different currents here over quite a large range of currents. And this is kind of, optimize in terms of the processing, in terms of the setup. So we could do things like changing sensor positioning, changing post-processing, changing the configuration a bit, and get this data looking a lot nicer and being able to see much smaller currents than this. So we think it's fairly straightforward to get down to kind of single amp and potentially below. It's not the material. It's everything kind of surrounding. So things that you can easily find solutions to optimize those things. You can do more kind of processing and averaging and stuff, and you can get a lot cleaner data than this. But as an initial kind of setup test, this is really, really promising. And again, we can see those fast responses. So this kind of shows key advantages over other types of sensing techniques, where, for example, with a thermal measurement, you wouldn't be able to see the two different directions, and you also might have a bit more kind of lag, thermal lag. So here we're seeing the benefits of the material in that you get an instantaneous response and you get a directionality as well. So the way that we took these measurements was with this piece of kit, which hopefully if you've been over and had a look at our stand, you can see one of these with a sensor attached to it to show our kind of test setup. So this is something that we have built in discussion with some early adopters to give us a really easy way to trial the device. So it's essentially a self-contained unit where you can just plug and play with up to 4 sensors, and it also has temperature sensors incorporated as well. And it comes with its own software, which is very easy to use and easy to set up. And this takes you through everything from configuring the sensors, configuring how you want to do the measurement. It does the data acquisition, the logging, and the viewing as well. So it does signal processing, and you can get out a nice kind of digital trace, and you can see the sensor measuring in real time. And actually, we've shown with this that you can quite easily just kind of set it all up, plug it in, and you can immediately see the Earth's magnetic field being measured by the sensor, by the graphene. So this is a really nice thing to look at. So I'll move on from talking about those trials of our products to some other R&D work in progress kind of updates. So this is where we've been looking at testing for angular resolution. So this is some raw data just from an R&D sensor, and we can see that between plus and minus 60 degrees, we have a peak error of just less than 0.1 degree. And this is a nice low error. Again, just for raw data like this, is a really low error and is comparable to other sensors that have already had corrections applied to them. So again, an initial result, but very, very promising. So looking to maintain this performance going forward with the devices. Another key requirement is operating temperature. So early research on our sensor has mostly focused on low and ambient temperatures, where we've been able to see the benefits of graphene. We've been able to see a wide operating range and a very small and repeatable coefficient. So it's easy to calibrate the sensors, it's easy to understand the behavior, and the behavior is completely repeatable. So we've seen this in the temperature range that we've been working at so far, but with our R&D work, we're looking to push that to a higher range of temperatures, particularly to target things like the automotive applications, which for certain ones is key to operate above at least 125 degrees. So that's something that we're very much focusing on at the moment. Now, this is not at all a problem for graphene. Graphene as a material is incredibly robust to incredibly high temperatures. So that's not a problem for us. We know our material is capable of that. It's more about making sure that the assembly as a whole can withstand those temperatures and can keep that high performance going and be stable at those temperatures. So this is something that we're working on, and this is something that we can show here with, again, some more initial R&D data. So for example, with structure 1, which would be more like our original devices that were rated to, say, 60 degrees. And we can see that at high temperature here, the performance starts to drift, and we're seeing a difference in properties from the original value. Whereas structure 2, which is kind of along the line of some R&D work that we've been doing, we can see that by just controlling the structure that way, we can just bring that down and keep it more or less at the original value. So this is something that we're doing just by, as I say, changing the structure, the assembly, and optimizing certain things, but for the material itself, we're not limited by that in any way. So, as well as the stable operation at constant high temperatures, it's important to look at the performance over the whole range of temperatures. So this is some temperature cycling data that we have between 25 and 130 degrees. So there are several ramps back and forth shown here. This is for something like structure 2 here, which is the R&D one. And we can see that there's good linearity over that temperature range. There's possibly a bit of kind of shift between cycles, but this is just some preliminary data. It's not, again, not kind of optimized. But what we see here is good linearity, and if we measure the temperature coefficient of that, it's very low, and it's quite repeatable and quite easy to understand and calibrate out. So this is really promising. So to summarize, Paragraf's graphene Hall effect sensor gathers all of the benefits of graphene. So we see a fast response over a wide measurement range at orders of magnitude lower power than conventional sensors. And it's very easy to use, easy to understand, easy to calibrate, kind of plug in and trial and test. And that can be used for various applications just within automotives. We've got positional, rotational, and current sensing. And we're looking to maintain this extremely high performance aligned with other requirements. And all of these requirements are very much kind of discussion-driven and customer-driven, so we're always very happy to have conversations and any inquiries and questions. So thank you very much.